and your suggestions and your work with all of us. It just enhances everything that we're doing. So our regional gem recipient this year, as you know, is Michael D. McCarty. And we have a lovely certificate for him that says, the Storytelling Association of California presents the 2021 Regional Gem Award to Michael D. McCarty in recognition of his leadership, service, and exceptional storytelling, which testifies to the unity within the diversity of the human spirit. Presented with joy on May 8th, 2021. So Michael, here's your certificate.
Thank you. And in the magic of technology, it came out in a frame.
Excellent.
And one of the reasons I had to run out of here, I just received your flowers. When they said there were flowers at the gate, I thought it was for my wife for Mother's Day. And so she's standing out there and she said, these are for you. What can I say?
Thank you, Michael. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And it's all yours, honey.
Yay. Well, here we go. You know, it's, okay, you can see my shirt. Most of you know I'm into t-shirts. I can go an entire year and never wear the same t-shirt, change twice on Sundays. And so this particular, I'm dedicating this as I did when I received my NSN award. I dedicated it to my mom. And this is a picture of my mother, who was born in 1908.
Wow.
My father was born in 1900.
Wow.
When they had me, how shall I say, they were surprised. My mother used to tell me, she said, I thought I had gas. I have some friends who agree that, yes, indeed, she did.
I think I'm going to mute everybody, Michael. Excuse me. I think I'm going to mute everybody. And
you don't actually, no, you don't have to.
No,
nobody
okay.
has to be muted. Nobody has to be muted.
All right.
You all know me. I'm loud. And all of y'all together are not as loud as me, so it's not a problem. And I like to hear feedback. So you don't. If you want to mute yourself, fine. If you think you might say something risque, now you can definitely unmute yourself. But my mother, I am who I am because of my mother. My mother believed in me when I was in about 4th or 5th grade. And after reading some books that she had gotten me about science and reading about Einstein, I decided I wanted to be a physicist. And most of my parents' friends couldn't say physicist. But when I told my mom I wanted to be a physicist, she said, you go, boy. She put no limits on me. And she impressed in me the importance of reading. So you're going to hear various stories about my mom, but I wanted to open up this program with this particular story. I call it Passing Through. I was about maybe 12 years old, give or take a year or two. Me and my mom were home. The doorbell rang. I checked the door, and there's a woman that says, young man, is your mother in? I go get my mother, who was in the kitchen. She comes to the door. The woman says, miss, you don't know me. I'm just passing through your neighborhood. I'm on my way to catch a bus. I really need to use the washroom. May I use your bathroom? My mother says, of course. She shows the woman the bathroom. And then she goes into the kitchen. She reaches up on top of the refrigerator and pulls out the good tea set. We can't even look at that sucker, okay? It's up on top of the refrigerator in several layers of plastic, all right? She breaks out the good tea set. She makes tea and coffee. She slices up pound cake and places cookies on the tray. When the woman comes out the washroom, my mother's there in the dining room with this setup, treating her like she was a long lost friend. I never forgot that. And another thing that I got from my mom, I speak to people. I don't care if I'm walking down the street, wherever I go, I speak to you. All y'all who know me know I speak. Oh God, here comes Michael. He goes, yep, that's me. I speak to people. My mother was from Barbados. A few years ago, I got to go to Barbados. I was doing a storytelling tour in the Caribbean. I was going to be on a TV show in Barbados. So the guy who arranged the trip picked me up. We went to the TV station and we're sitting there in the lobby waiting for whoever to come and get us. Every person, because we were right next to the entrance, every person walking in or out, whether they were by themselves, whether they were engaged with conversation with somebody else, they would stop and speak to us. Good morning, how are you doing? Going in or out. And that's the way I am. People think I'm crazy, and I am. Those of you who know me know that I am. So here we go. I want to share a variety of stories, some stories from here, some stories from there. But one of the stories I want to share with you right now, I call this Seize the Chalk. Now, some of you know I work in prisons. I work in California prisons. I've worked in a dozen prisons since 2014, teaching my story creation workshop in the prisons. So I get these guys to get in touch with their stories. So one of the stories, or one of the concepts that I developed, and I use it as a foundation, is this concept of seize the chalk. Now, I'm sure many of you saw the movie about the Black women in the space program. You can yell it out.
Yes.
Numbers. Hidden figures. Hidden figures.
Yes.
So here's the scenario. At the very beginning of the movie, the young Catherine, she's like, looks like she needs to be in 3rd or 4th grade, but she's mad, crazy, smart. And the teachers at her school, she's in 6th grade, are raised money to send the family to another town, which had a 8th grade plus for Catherine because she was so smart. So there's the scene at the school. Catherine is sitting there and her little feet don't even come close to the floor. And the teacher comes up to her with a piece of chalk and says, Catherine, there's a quadratic equation on the board. She says, Catherine, why don't you show us how to solve this equation? And she does her little, let's see, where I got these just to do this. She has this little move she does. When she do that, it's on. She about to do some serious calculating. So she goes up there, she looks at the equation, and she's like, and the students are like, and then after she solves it, she says, well, if the product of 2 elements is 0, then it just stands to reason that one of them must be 0. So if you isolate and solve for 0, you will have the answer. And then the teacher's like, And what I shared with them is that we in our lives, we have these seize the chalk moments. We all have had them in our lives. So I've got a bunch of them, but here's the one that I share with the guys in my class. 1992. I'm introduced, I meet a guy named, you all know, Joel Ben Izzy. I was at CAGE, the Conference on Alternatives in Jewish Education. That's another story, okay? And Joel is introduced to me as a professional storyteller. And I said, you do what? People pay you to tell stories? I've been telling stories my whole life. How you do that? Well, Joel was very helpful. He gave me all this information. You know how we are? If somebody's crazy enough to want to be a storyteller, we crazy enough to help them. So Joel is giving me all this information, and while he's talking to me, it comes to me, and I said, I'm going to do it, and my motto is going to be, have mouth, we'll run it. So a couple of days later, I say to myself, what would I do as a professional if I was independently wealthy? Which I wasn't. I said, I tell stories. I said, okay, that's what I'm going to do. So I go to my local library. I was living in the Echo Park area of Los Angeles at the time, and I'm getting all these books about storytelling, collections of folktale, books about the art of storytelling and what have you. And I read very quickly. So every few days I'm in and out the library with an armload of books. So one day I'm back in there to get some more books, and the young adult librarian, Anthony Bernier, who lives up in Northern California now, we've stayed in touch. He says, "Why are you getting all these books? Are you writing a paper?" I said, "No, I'm a storyteller." "You're a storyteller? I've got these teenagers. They want to learn storytelling. Can you give them a workshop?" I said, "Sure." Like I said, my mama told me if I could read, I could do anything. I can read my butt off. So I gave the workshop. It was a great success. And it's amazing when you make those leaps, there's the stuff that happens. So I give the workshop. It's 4 Saturdays. It's 3 hours, three, from 9 till noon, 4 consecutive Saturdays. The first day I was supposed to have a dozen kids, I had 4. And I did the workshop. Now, I wanted the kids to learn about puppets. I don't do puppets, but the LA City Library had a program called Grandparents and Books. And the grandparents would use puppets to tell stories to the kids. So I asked Anthony if he could get somebody from the Grandparents and Books program to come in for an hour to teach the kids about puppets. I'm thinking he's gonna get one of the grandparents. He got Susan Patrone and Maureen Wade, who were the heads of the children's librarians for the city of Los Angeles.
Oh my God.
Oh,
So the first day, on that first day, Susan came. Like I said, I just had the 4 kids. We worked, we had a great time. When she and Maureen came 2 weeks later, I had 12 kids. But it wasn't the other kids who didn't come that day. Those 4 kids had told their friends and their cousins, and they came. And so Susan comes, she gives the workshop, and she is very impressed. What can I say? She arranged for me. Now, remember, I just had this crazy whack idea about being a storyteller. I say yes to this workshop. I put the sucker on. She then arranges for me to do a personal showcase for all of the LA City children's librarians. And I rock the world. Some of you all, if you know, I know Dave, I know you heard me do this story. I started doing my first signature story is A Strange Creature. It's a really wacky, active, I'm strange, I'm changing voices and what have you. And I was on the stage in front of these librarians. Now, let me tell you something, okay? The night before I was to do this presentation, I was in such incredible pain. A few years prior, I had gotten hurt working a construction job, and it messed up my whole immune system, and my ankle had swollen up, looked like an elephant ankle.
oh,
I couldn't even crawl. I managed to find some crutches or something, and I went to this personal showcase on crutches. But when it was time for me to tell my story, I cast them aside. Got up on the stage. I told my story. And at some point, it's a scary story. At some point, I leap into the audience.
Oh,
I got about 3 or 4 rows of librarians. And I was healed through the power of story.
Hallelujah, brother.
That summer, I got so much work, but it was another, the theme that summer was the Old West. So the first librarian to call me up says, "Michael, the theme for the summer reading program is the Old West. Do you have any stories?" I said, Sure. Ran to the library. The answer is always yes. The answer is always yes. But jumping back to the theme, when Anthony asked me if I could give that workshop, I just said, well, I'm just starting. I've never done nothing like that. Maybe I can find something for you. I might not be here talking to you right now. But because my butt was crazy enough to say yes, and to pull it off, I'm rocking the world. So this is a story that I tell to the guys in my class. This is the first Seize the Chalk story that I tell. So I'm gonna share this one story that one of the guys told in my class. Let's call him Maurice. Maurice was in prison for a sentence of 25 to life for a nonviolent and victimless crime. Yeah, that's right. Linda, that's right. You what?
Yeah.
He had a public defender. And in the prison, they call them public pretenders. So they had just come from court, and Maurice wasn't happy about the way this guy was defending him, and he's on his case. And finally, he says to the guy, man, listen, I don't need you. You're not helping me. You're fired. The public defender starts laughing. He said, you can't fire me. You didn't hire me. I was appointed by the judge. I'll see you the next court trip. And he leaves. Well, Maurice, who I had been told did not have a 6th grade education, he went to the law library.
Yes.
He went to the law library and figured it out, and he fired that public defender. So now he's, as we say, smelling himself. So he decides, the heck with this, I'm going to be my own attorney.
Oh.
Yeah. And his wife said, have you lost your mind? You don't know what you're doing. They're going to rake you over the coals. And she told him, I am not coming to court because I cannot stand watching you. You're going to be. And she was right. His first day in court, everything that you could do wrong, he did. He snarled at the judge. He cussed at the prosecuting attorney. He glared at the jury.
Oh, gee.
Yeah. So the judge had the presence of mind to say, we're going to take a break because you need a break because we're about to build a jail on top of your butt. I'm paraphrasing, okay? He said, I'm going to give you a break to get your mind right. Now, during that break, he got his mind right. He went back. He was pissed. He wanted to fight. There were other people in the cell. He wanted to fight everybody. Finally, he chilled out. He realized he was wrong, and he realized he was going to have to apologize. But then he started going through his files. Because now he's his own attorney, he has access to all his files and records. And in going through the files, he discovered that the prosecutor had kept pertinent information from the judge. So when he goes back to the courtroom, he gets up and says, Your Honor, I want to thank you for giving me this break so I could get my mind right. I want to apologize to you, to the prosecutor, and to the jury for my actions. I'm really sorry. That will not happen again. And oh, by the way, it seems that the prosecutor has kept some pertinent information from me. And the judge was like, It took about a year and a half. He had his case overturned.
Oh.
He had his case. The 25 to life, they threw that sucker out. So at the time he was in my class, let's say it was November of 2019. He was scheduled to get out in February, but he was taking a GED class. And if he got his GED, that would reduce a couple of months off his sentence. So he did the first 3 parts, knocked them suckers out. The last part was the math, and he was scared, okay? He was so frightened of the math part of the test. He was in my class at the time. He said, I can't do it. I'm just gonna tell him I'll take it next month, because like I said, this was November. The next opportunity was gonna be in January, okay? One of the handouts that I gave out during the class was a quote from Michael Jordan, where he says, "You miss 100% of the shots that you do not take." When he got up that morning, when he was gonna go tell them he was gonna take the test later, he saw that and decided to take the test. He took that sucker, bam, knocked it out of the park, and got out. If not December, it was early January. And he's out and free because he sees that chalk. And that's the end of that. Woo!
Yeah.
Super.
All right.
Super.
Seize the jock.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. God, okay. As storytellers, we're dedicated to storytelling. But one of the things that we as storytellers sometimes miss is our own stories. We're going through stuff. We're living life. Something happens, and we just think about it as something we got to deal with. We don't see the story. Now, let me give you an example of this. Many of you know my good friend down here, Baba the Storyteller.
Yeah.
He's a phenomenal storyteller, and I got phenomenal stories about him. I mean, he plays the kora, and well, you're going to get all this in this story. So let me tell you this. This is something that he told me. And when he told it to me, I said, "Eric, that's a phenomenal story." He said, "What? Story?" I said, "Yeah, man." And he said, "Well, you tell it." And I do. So you're all about to hear it, okay? So Eric does Jalia, the traditional storytelling of the griots, the jali of primarily French-speaking West Africa. He plays the traditional instruments, especially the kora, a 21-string harp. He wears the traditional clothing, and he tells the traditional stories in either French or 2 African languages from that region that he speaks fluently. He also speaks Spanish and English, okay? So he was contacted by a museum in Beverly Hills. They were having an exhibit of West African art, and they wanted to hire him to come in and play the kora throughout the thing. Now, this is just an aside, and I ain't gonna give you the details, but let me tell you this. He didn't want to do the gig. It was, you know how it is, you get these gigs. So what did he do? He gave them a price that he knew they would just say, "Oh," but that's not what they said. "Oh, okay." It was a good price. I ain't gonna put a business out of it. It was good. It was real good. Did I say it was good? It was good. So he's sitting there in the museum. He's got the kora. He's playing. He's, like I said, he's dressed in the traditional garb. He's singing the songs in the traditional language. A white Frenchman and 4 Africans come into the museum, and they're all standing and looking at Eric. And the Frenchman says something to the Africans, and then he comes over and asks Eric, what is this instrument, and where are you from, and da 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 da. Then he goes back to the Africans. Well, he's dissing Eric. These African Americans, they don't know anything about your culture. He doesn't know this, he doesn't know that. He's doing all this in French. And Eric's just sitting there playing the kora. ding, ding, ding. And when the Frenchman gets through with his rant, he sort of looks at Eric smugly, and Eric says in perfect French, you should really watch what you say and around who you say it, because you never know who might understand. Hi-yow! Dinosaur egg all up on his face, okay? So the Frenchman is sort of muttering, and one of the Africans comes over to Eric and says, this instrument is from my country. He was from Mali, I believe. And Eric says to him, what is your family name? And he tells him, he knows the praise song for this man's family name, and proceeds to play it. And he is like, now, in the course of having this discussion, at that time, Eric's Spanish was better than his French, and the African also spoke Spanish, so they switched from French to Spanish, left the Frenchman in the dust, okay? Left him in the dust. And the man was so excited, he says to Eric, you are my family griot. You must come to my home. I must introduce you to my friends. So a few weeks later, Eric shows up at the man's home, but he doesn't go up and ring the doorbell. He stands outside and plays the traditional song the griot would play when he was coming to the home of one of his constituents. And the man comes out, brings him in the house, and he says to Eric, if you need anything, you must tell me because it is my responsibility. And about 2 weeks later, he shows up at Eric's house with a couple of bags of groceries to show Eric's wife how she should cook for her griot. I call this story, you never know who might understand what you're saying. And that's the end of that.
Je comprends, monsieur.
Très bien, très bien.
Now, I'm not looking to see who's on here, but one of the people who might be in the listening stage is my daughter, Carla. That's my baby. And many of you have heard the story I do about her that's called That's My Baby. You can find it on my YouTube page. I got a YouTube page too. Oh yeah. But this particular, I want to tell you another story about her. And I called it, well, actually, she called it Diary of a Crazed Teenager. And it goes like this. This happened, I believe it was 1988 September. I'd been living out here in LA for a few years, and I'd gone back to Chicago, and some friends had thrown me a birthday party. Now, that's another story because I actually got kicked out of my own birthday party. That's another story. But because I got kicked out of my birthday party, I was home I was staying with my mother and my sister at the time on the west side of Chicago. My daughter lived on the south side of Chicago with her mother. But sometime on the weekends, she would spend the weekends with my mother and sister. Now, because of that, remember, this is the 80s, this is pre-cell phone, okay? So there would be this area of time, 8, 9, even 10 o'clock, where if she wasn't at one place or the other, they think, well, she must be over there or she must be over there, which gave her a little leeway, a little leeway. So of course she acts a complete and utter fool, and she comes in at 2 in the morning. Now, at that time, my sister was taking care of our mother, and my sister was old school. She was having conniptions, and when I showed up, she was waiting for Carla to come in, and she was going to give her a piece of her mind. And I said, sis, you go to bed. You about to give yourself a heart attack. She was steam coming all out of ears and carrying on. I said, I'll take care of this. Now, my daughter knows my sister, all right? She knows that she's gonna yell at her, so she had it all planned in her head. She would come in. And look all repentant while she was thinking about what she's gonna wear the next day, okay? So when she comes to the door and I open the door, she ain't ready for that. She's like, what? At first she thought me and my sister were gonna double team her. But then she comes in and my sister isn't there, and I told her, have a seat. And I started telling her stories.
Ooh.
Stories about dumb ass things that me and my friends had done when we were her age and the consequences thereof. How we learn lessons and this and that. Now, every now and then I would say to her, look, if you're tired and want to go to sleep, or you just don't want to hear anymore, just say the word. No, Daddy. I told her stories for over an hour. Over an hour. Now, that was 1988. 1992, I become a storyteller. 1995, I was giving a workshop on telling the teens and teaching teens to tell at the National Storytelling Conference.
Yeah.
I remembered this encounter with my daughter, and I asked her to write about what it meant to her, what she got out of it. Thus, the Diary of a Crazed Teenager title. And she wrote, he tricked me. I was bamboozled. I thought he was just telling me stories, but he was teaching me stuff about life. And she went on to say, because she's a teacher, she said, I use the same technique with my students. When I want to learn something, I don't yell at them. I don't lecture them. I tell them stories. And that's the story of my baby. That's the end of that.
Yeah.
Good God. Okay. I got to tell you, so many stories, so little time. Some of you know, because I told the story for you all, I think in September or so. There's a story I do that's called Flame On. And it's the story about this last year of my life when, let's see, February of last year, end of February, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. About a week or so later, my brother went into a coma and he would die a week after that. And then, so this is March, COVID came and shut down the earth and shut down income of everybody on the earth just about. And then in, okay, I'm gonna try to get through this. In November, my sister died.
Oh.
Yeah, it was just like, I got to tell you this story about my sister. 2004, the National Storytelling Conference was outside of Chicago. And I received the Leadership and Service Award that year. Linda, did you present it to me that year? Was that? Yeah, I remember. Yeah, way back when. So, since it was outside Chicago, I invited my sister and my daughter came, and some of my friends, my college and pinochle friends came. Now, you have to understand, like I said, I'm the baby in my family. My brother, Grover, 14 years older than me. Wow. Renita, my sister, 20 years older than me. My brother, Edward, 25 years older than me. Like I said, surprise, surprise, surprise. I'm the baby in the family, and I've always been weird. I've always been strange from every shape and form. You know, I'm doing all this stuff. I get kicked out of high school for leading a walkout. I become an acupuncturist. And my sister through all this is like, my baby brother into some weird stuff. And when I first told her that I was a professional storyteller, she said, yeah, okay. She was not impressed. So my daughter brought her to the award ceremony. And it's really, really funny. And I'm sure this is my interpretation of what my sister experienced. She looks around the room, and I'm sure she thought, these people look normal. And apparently, they think that my baby brother does something that is useful. And from that day on, she spoke about my work in a whole nother light. I tell her about the various projects I did, be it working with youth, doing this, motivational speaking, whatever it was. And she would say to me, Michael, you're doing good work. But here's what's really funny. Now, my sister, my daughter took care of my sister and my brother as they got older, and my sister had dementia for a very long time, a very long time. And let's see, so I'm starting my work in the prisons. So I told my sister, sis, I'm going to be teaching storytelling in California prisons. And the first thing she said was, don't let anybody hit you upside the head, knock you out, put you in a closet and walk out with your clothes and pretend like they're you. I mean, she just, bam, dimensional, just straight through. And just about every morning when I was on my way to prisons, because it was sometimes a 4 or 5 hour drive to where I was going, I would call my sister every morning and she'd say, where are you going? I'm on my way to prison. Don't let them keep you. Every day, don't let them keep you. And that was my big sister. And she, it's interesting because I got to see her in September. And it was really a grace of God kind of thing. Because when I arrived, now remember September, California was supposed to be, if you came from California, you went any place, you were supposed to be quarantined. So I showed up, and the very next day, my daughter and I went to go see my sister, and I was able to see her. We got to hang out. I got some great pictures and even some video of it. That was the only day I got to see her, because once they realized I was from California, they wouldn't let me come back to see her. So I'm really, really grateful for that time. And I have some wonderful pictures of her. And with my sister, as well as with my brother, I'm not surprised that they left when they did. Both of them, they were both Aries. For you astrological people, they were Aries. We were a family full of hard heads, Aries, Capricorns, and Virgos. Woo! And I could tell that my sister told my daughter one day,
It's okay, Michael.
Yeah.
I know that you want me to stay, but we all have to go sometime. And then Thanksgiving, she was gone. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, let me tell you, okay, I'll tell you a quick story about my brother. Is this all grown-ups on this call, by the way? Anybody?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, cool. All right.
Yeah, yes, and on YouTube, it'd be listed as not for kids.
All right. So I can tell you the story. So, like I said, my brother Grover was 14 years older than me. So when he lived in the house for a good chunk of my life, and I looked up to him. I mean, my brother, his nickname was Count because he was cool. All right. He was just too cool. My brother, he would do this thing. He would brush super groom. There was this grease he used in his hair, and he had this brush. He would brush and brush and brush until he had all these waves in his hair. And I would try to do that. I'd watch him because he put all that in, put the stocking cap on, and I would do it, but my hair would say, right. Just blow it up. And he would somewhat tease me, but he was also my protector. One time, some people chased me home. It was a gang of people, actually, and he ran out with slippers. I mean, them old slippers with no back on them, and he was chasing them. But another time, two guys from my elementary school, they had chased me, and I had run to the house, and I said, they chased me. He said, who? I said, they outside. He went out, and he saw him. He said, what? There's only two? You take care of this. And he went to the house, and I had to run my butt off. So this is a story that I call revenge. I don't remember exactly what I had done, but I know one undeniable fact. I was in big trouble. The reason I knew this, I was running and my mama was running after me. And my mama could move fast for a mama. I'm about 10 years old and I'm like putting on all my best moves, and my mama's right behind me, not getting faked out or nothing. Now we're in the front room, running back and forth around the table. Her trying to get me trying to keep from getting got. And the only thing on my 10-year-old mind, I got to get the angle on the front door. I got to get position so my mom's on the far side of the table, I'm side closest to the door so I can get out the door before she can get to me. Now, the fact that I have to come home later does not occur to me because I'm 10 years old and rather stupid. So finally, I got the angle on the door. I'm busting through the door. In come Grover. He sees what's going on and laughs. He snatches me up. Mama go wear your butt out. And he handed me over to my mama. She wore my behind out, not only for whatever I had done, but for making her have to work to get me. So now I'm mad at my big brother and I want revenge. Well, what can I do? He's 14 years older than me. But I have one distinct advantage. I watch cartoons.
Oh my God.
And in cartoons, what happens when you sprinkle pepper under somebody's nose? They
Sneeze.
but they don't just, in the cartoons, they don't just got you. When they sneeze, eyeballs come flopping out. Hair goes flying through the air. And this is the image in my 10-year-old mind. And I know what I'm going to do. I get up early the next morning. My brother's still sleeping. That good nose snore. I go to the kitchen. I get the black pepper shaker.
Oh no.
I stand over my brother. I look down. Nose is mine.
Yeah.
And I start sprinkling the pepper.
Oh.
But just as the pepper comes out, my brother wakes up, opens his eyes and moves. Pepper goes straight into his eyes.
Oh boy.
I'm running, and I just know that this is my last day on earth. Somebody's gonna kill me. So I tried to become invisible. Now, back in my day, and all y'all know what I'm talking about, when I knew I was going to get a whooping, you got ready. You put on your whooping armor. As many pairs of blue jeans and corduroy pants you could get on your narrow little butt. Long sleeve shirts and sweatshirts. It didn't matter if it was summer and it was 90,000 degrees outside. And this was a time when books were very important in the life of a child. Because you take them books, put them down in your pants. That strategic area you knew was a target for that woman. So now I'm ready. Can't barely move, but I'm ready. They took my brother to the doctor, got his eyes flushed out, came back. Nobody said a thing to me.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, you know you're right. Outside to play. Had lunch, came in, had lunch. It was hard to play in my whooping armor, but I had to be ready. Went out and played some more. Came back in, watched dinner. Had dinner, watched TV. Nobody said nothing. So I'm thinking, they forgot about it. And then it was time for bed. And what do young children wear when they go to bed?
Pajamas.
Are pajamas good armor for a whooping?
No.
Oh.
Apparently not.
I put on my little PJs, got in my little bed. The day had gone so well. Bam! In comes my mama, belt in hand. Had your little whooping armor on all day long, didn't you? Oh, you thought you was ready, but you're not ready now. But guess what? I'm ready. Did she wear my behind out? And I realized a powerful lesson. As it said in the good book, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. And it was not for me. And that's the end of that. I'm gonna tell you one or two more little stories. Oh yeah, I gotta tell you this. I'm gonna tell you one, and then we'll do the Q&A. Are we right on? Is that okay? Are we good on time? So, many of you have seen my documentary, Belonging in the USA, the story of Michael D. McCarty. If you haven't seen it, I'll post it. I'll put it in here, post it. You can check it out. It's an amazing thing. But what's even more amazing is ultimately how this documentary came to be. So here's the deal. The young lady who made the documentary, her name is Arielle Nobile. I have known Arielle all of her life. Her parents, Jeff and Michelle, they're no longer together. But her parents, Jeff and Michelle, were not just good friends. They were important people in my life. Jeff introduced me to world travel. When he graduated from college, he took this round the world trip. And a few years later, I would take a round the world trip inspired by that would change the course of my life. They introduced me to Indian food, artichokes, and all kind of stuff. I mean, it was just great. So Arielle was born, I think, around 1979. And I would go over, up until she was about 3 years old, I would go over to visit her parents and I would play with her. Now, I'm sure you all remember that Simon game with the little lights, boop, 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 and you had to repeat it. Well, they never had the game. But when I went over there to play with her, I would press her belly and go, boop, 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 until she was sick of me, okay? So, like I said, this went on, and then I left Chicago, moved out here. The next time I saw Arielle, she was about to graduate from high school. I'd gone over to visit the parents, and the parents went to bed, and it was just me and Arielle and one of her classmates. And I'm telling stories. This is before me becoming a professional storyteller, but storytelling is all I've ever known. So at some point, Arielle says to me, Michael D., I really don't remember you. I said, of course, you were just a baby. I would come over and I would press your belly and go, boop, boop, boop. Her eyes got big as saucers. She remembered me. She remembered the apartment, the paintings on the wall, the carpet. All this flush of memories came in because of boop, boop, boop. And we've been like that ever since. It was really funny. One time she came out here with one of her friends, and I took her, remember I told you her parents introduced me to Indian food. So I took her to my favorite Indian restaurant. We had a great time. And then I called up Michelle, her mom, and I said, yeah, I took Ariel to this Indian restaurant. She said, you did what? She ate Indian food? She never eats Indian food with us. And so when she decided she wanted to do something to counter the madness, the Trump madness, she wanted to create this documentary series, and she wanted to do me as the first subject. And for those of you who've seen it, you know it was no poot but operation. I mean, I've had a lot of people videotape me. She hired these two guys to come and follow me around with a drone one day.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. She interviewed my wife, Valerie, and she asked her, what would a movie of Michael's life be like? And then she sent that interview to a friend of hers who was an animator. And she turned that whole interview into an animated story. And when you see the documentary, you'll see these little animation things that pop in here and there, but there's a whole story that she did. She had a woman come and go through and catalog every one of my photos. I got a lot of photos. And when you see the documentary, you see it's a really amazing, amazing, amazing thing. And I'll close with this. I am so blessed to be a storyteller. This is what I am here to do. And once I found it, I just loved it. When I was in one of the prisons I work in, there's one prison, Valley State Prison. I've been at that prison for 6 years. And one of the guys, who's a whole nother story I do, he wrote something about me. And because I said one day in the class, many of you know I give away books. I give away books in my library programs. I keep books in my car. I give away books to everybody and anybody. And so I was talking about one time I was someplace and I reached in the trunk of my car and I gave some kids some books. And Daniel did a presentation about me to the class one day, and he cried. He said he stopped and opened his car up and gave some kids books. Who does that? Who does that? And Daniel is another story. It's an amazing story. Some of you have heard me talk about him. He went to prison about 22 years ago for killing his father, stepmother, one of his brothers, and one of his sisters. And 20 years later, when he went to prison, he was on the front page of the newspaper. It was a big to-do. 20 years later, he's on the front page of the same newspaper for receiving a college scholarship from an agency that had never given scholarships to inmates before.
Wow. And
he went on to, he set up a program for youth, because he had been in as a 15, 16-year-old. He set up a year-long training program in the prison for people like him so they could get in touch with their stories. Okay, he's been with me all 6 years. And he put this whole, he coached them. He timed them. He had 20 guys do stories and every one of them was under 5 minutes. If we could do
Wow.
that. Yes.
Wow.
Yes. I love what I do. And I tell you, I love all of you. When I was trying to put together the program that I was going to do today, I thought that I would do something and I would accentuate and all the people who have been of help to me in my storytelling career. Shoot, if I did that, I'd be here till your next meeting. Because as I started, I put together a photo. I was going to have my wife do something, so with a green screen behind me, and these people were going to go. Shoot, I didn't even get a third of the way through my photos. I had like 500 photos. I said, I don't think that's going to work. But I love this. I love what we do. I love you all. I look forward to when we can get back together face to face and we can hug and kiss and do all of that stuff again.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful to my mom and my family and all my friends. And that's the end of that.
Whoa.
Michael, thank you so much.
May there be no end.
Thank you. Love you, man.
Very good.
Woo.
Too much fun.
Well,
What's the
there
name
is-
of the documentary again?
Oh yeah, in fact, let me what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the link in the chat thingy. Will that work for everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Good piece. Beautiful piece.
There's a password that's case sensitive. Just so you know, the password is freedom and the F needs to be capitalized, just so you know.
Freedom.
Whoops, what happened? Are you out? Where you go? There you are, okay. I'm having technical, okay. You all chat amongst yourselves. I'm trying to find this damn thing.
Tina,
Okay.
did you want to say anything about what you guys did last night?
Okay, all right, there we go. Here we go. Yep, copy. And now, okay, let's see if this works. Yes, I think so.
Of course.
Yep, there it is. Okay, I'm sorry, did somebody ask me a question?
I just asked Tina if she wanted to talk about what happened last
Oh,
night.
yeah, yesterday.
Yeah, we wanted to hear about yesterday.
Oh, we partied. Oh, we Michael and his wife Valerie came over to Barbara Clark's back patio. And there were maybe 6 or 7 of us from Barbara students and old friends of Michael's like Ann Buxey and Roylene Walker.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And Barbara talked about the Storytelling Association of California, the Regional Gem Award. She showed her award and she presented Michael with that miraculously framed award, which he was able to hoist at the time. And then Michael talked, he gave us a story, and then a lot of other storytelling went on. And at the end of it, Barbara brought out limeade made from her own limes from her tree. And we had some cookies. It was all great. It was just lovely.
And it was in person.
And the link is not up there.
Yeah, Michael, we're not seeing the link, so could you try it again, please?
Oh, you know something? I guess I have to actually,
Enter it.
there you go.
There you go. Enter works.
That's the enter button.
I still don't see it.
Me neither.
Did you do it to everyone or somebody in particular?
Oh, you know something? That's exactly what happened. Okay, I'm glad you know what the heck I'm doing.
Having that one person now.
There we go. Okay, here we go.
We all here to help everyone together.
Not yet.
There.
There it is.
Video.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yay!
Freedom.
Yay!
So we have a little bit of time for questions or
Yes,
comments.
yes. Q&A. Anybody?
I want to say something,
Please.
and that is the first time I've participated in the Zoom story session where the audience was encouraged not to mute. It was so much fun hearing reactions. That's
Yes.
the thing I find so difficult with this process is you don't get juice back.
Yeah.
But today, Michael, we were giving you some juice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we want active noise participation, not somebody talking to their cat, walking around the kitchen.
We're thankful for what we got.
Yay.
Amen.
Right.
That was really great, Michael.
Linda, oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Linda, I see you got your hand up.
I do. My virtual hand and my real hand. Yeah, oh, that's absolutely wonderful, Michael. But I'm really wondering what happened with all your prison work in this last year with COVID. Were you still able to do it, or what?
Very good question. So here's what happened. So in March, everything shut down. And then about month and a half, 2 months later, they prepared, they created a situation where we send lessons into the prison. So there's basically two scenarios. One, because some of the prisons, we send the material in and that's it. These are guys who already have been in my class. And so it's sending material in because for most of this past year, these guys have been in their cells all day. All day. They brought them SAC meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Oh.
And so then one of the other prisons, this is good. So one of the other prisons created a scenario where we send material in and then they send material out. They send homework out, okay? To and you know, we'll eventually get them some feedback. But here's what's really, really funny. So one of the prompts I use for one of the guys is a story about when I was a kid. I love Popeye, I love spinach. I bugged my mama to bring home some spinach and she didn't for like a month, no spinach. I'm all over spinach. I want spinach like Popeye. She finally bought the spinach home. She made a big old pot of spinach. I took a big Popeye fork of spinach, put it in my mouth like, Bleh! This is horrible. And my mama said, boy,
You're gonna eat them.
every drop of that spinach. So one of the guys in my class, before he did the homework, he said, I got to tell you about Popeye and spinach. He said when he was growing up, he loved Popeye and he always carried a can of spinach. And when he was in this little gang, not a big gang, just a little kid kind of gang, he was the main man. If the four guys in front of him couldn't deal with the go, he would open up his can of spinach and kick butt. So he became Popeye. Any other questions?
Michael, I think Barbara told me that you were in Tennessee doing some recordings. What was that about?
Yeah. I was in September, and many of you know Mary Hamilton. Mary Hamilton puts on this Haunted Hill Storytelling Festival, and what they did is they flew us in. There were 4 of us. They flew us in, and then they recorded us, and then they sent the recordings out to like a drive-in theater or to schools and libraries and what have you. So basically, we did that. You know, we got in on Sunday. We did the recording on Monday, and we were there till Saturday. So the rest of the week we were just hanging out, and it was really quite nice. It was, although there were a lot of Trump things everywhere. I was like, but it was, we had a lot of fun. It was great meeting these, well, not everybody there. And I would tell you names. the treatment I'm going through for the cancer has affected my memory and my cognitive function. So a lot of times I can't remember stuff. But I've been fighting it. I'm taking Cognium, anything that has to do with the brain, 5 hour, no, not 5 hour energy. Whatever, and anyway, anything that has to do with the brain, I'm taking. I'm fighting this. I've already lost my mind. I don't need to lose it twice.
Alicia wants to ask a question.
Sure.
Yeah, hi, Michael. I wondered, I have some Native American brothers in a couple of the prisons, and I wondered if you do work either at San Quentin or Pelican Bay or in Solano, or any of those prisons.
I don't. Magumi works in, I think, one of those prisons.
Right.
But Valley State Prison is the prison where that's the largest gathering. They had a powwow, and it was the largest gathering of Native Americans I've seen outside of a powwow. I was really, I mean, the gym was packed.
Wow.
And at most of the prisons, they have sweat lodges. At most of the prisons, they have sweat lodges, they have ceremonies and what have you. So, but Valley State especially.
Where is that, Michael?
Just on Chowchilla, just on the other side of Fresno. Yeah, they have a men's prison and a women's prison. I've only been in men's prisons thus far.
If there are some brothers who'd like to work with you regarding telling stories, how would they contact you, or how do you set that up?
Contact me, and I will. There are a variety of different agencies that put artists into the prisons, and so I'll find I'll put you in touch with an agency in your area.
Okay, so you would go through. You'll find the agency. We go through them. I know going through the prisons is such an ordeal about
you go through the agency that's already doing this.
Okay.
And it's just a matter of them hiring you and then going through the training and what have you.
Hiring you is what I'm not me. I'll go in there. I give you my email, and you could at your leisure send me the information.
Okay, let me tell you what, I'm going to put my email because
yeah,
like I said, I'm having memory issues. So it's if you contact me, and then that way we'll get things going.
Okay, I'd be happy to. Thank you.
My typing teacher would be ashamed of me. I'm still hunting and pecking.
Whatever works.
Not alone.
Okay, whoops. Let me make this to everybody. I gotta figure that out. All right, everybody in the meeting. Here we go. Bam.
There it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That
y'all,
looks familiar. Oh, but that's Earth Link, not Earth Little.
Earthlink. Yeah,
Yeah.
earthlink.net.
Oh, what did I write it wrong? Oh, that's the other thing I didn't do.
Put them on.
We got it.
Ina! I said that was Ina. Was that Ina?
Yes, it is.
Yay! Oh boy! Hey, Johan! Oh my God!
Hey, I got a story to tell. About you. And how you inspired me to start finally becoming a emerging storyteller here in Arizona.
You tell that Anansi story?
All I remember is that we met in the 90s. My girlfriend had this crazy idea that we could date. And I went back to her and said, hell no. He is outshining me way too much, and I'm the lioness, and this is not going to work. But we became friends because he's an amazing, amazing person, which we've continued to become friends. We've been separated for so long since I left Los Angeles in 2014. Yeah. Hey, Ed.
Hey, Joanne, we miss you here. We really do.
I'll be coming back to visit once all this madness clears up.
Oh,
So anyway,
it'll be a different madness, but you can help. Believe me, you can help.
so Michael was, he had a workshop at the World Stage, and over and over he was saying, you gotta come and tell a story, because I opened my big mouth and said, yeah, I got a story to tell. I'm gonna tell a story. I'm gonna tell a story. But that went on for years and years and years and years and years. And finally, when I came out here in 2019, and that was back in the 90s, in 2019, I decided to build up the gumption to do it. And I did it big because I was invited to, I had already was in a featured film, and it was a short film, but I was featured in the film, and it was already on exhibit at the Phoenix Museum. And then, you know, we did some panel discussions on stage and what have you. And I just felt like, well, I think I'm ready to start telling stories. So at that very same museum, there's a program called The Whole Story, which features stories coming from the African diaspora. And my parents are immigrants from Jamaica, so I always had lots of crazy stories. It always reminded me of my big wedding. When I think of that movie, My Great Big Wedding, I don't remember the full title, but it's kind of similar how I used to interpret my father, what the hell he's saying with the patois to my friends. So anyway, I did end up telling stories there. I told one about my journey after I lost my husband and my son. I started telling the journey how you can regain love after loss. And that was a hit.
Yay.
And it's all because of Michael, because he encouraged me, he kept badgering me. I wasn't ready, but I had opened my mouth and said that I was, but I really didn't mean it. And I just want to say thank you for encouraging me. Your stories today were absolutely joyful, even the poignant ones, just to show the vulnerability that comes out as storytellers is something that's very touching. And I felt years later that having had these experiences of grief, I felt so comfortable talking about it.
Yes,
you know, and I people talking about it with humor. Because my dad used to do that. We used to sit in the back of the funerals and he's telling jokes while my mother's up front crying, you know? So it's like, because he always let us know that life was a full circle. It doesn't end, it's just a different realm. And I would just start at parties, start talking about how wonderful the experience of witnessing death was. And they thought I was crazy, but I believe it. And I think through the magic of telling the hardest aspects of life through story, you lighten up the weight of what people are carrying.
Let me tell you real quick. Okay, real quick. I gotta tell you this. When my father passed, my mom, my sister, and I went to go make the funeral arrangements. A.A. Sammy Rayner over on the west side of Chicago, and he was giving us our options. You could have an individual plot or the family plan, and each member will be entombed next to their loved one. And my mother throws up her hand and says, "That's me, I'm gonna be next." That was the other thing she taught me. She said, death is nothing to be afraid of. In fact, you're gonna love it because you get away from this nonsense.
And Paula accompanied me at the funeral home to arrange for Joe's cremation. And that was my husband. And this woman thought we were crazy because we were laughing continuously because she kept showing these urns that cost $1 gazillion. And I'm like looking at Paula and my sister Ruby saying, Joe would have a fit if I bought any of this nonsense. He got vessels, he was a sculptor. He got all kind of crap we could put his ashes in. And she's just looking at us and we're busting out laughing. And it's just, she probably thought I was happy, like I'm like the happy widow, the man's gone. No, it was just that. Plus I have support doing the same thing, you know, but it's just something that I'm comfortable in discussing it and turning it into story. And it just, you're the inspiration, crazy man, Mr.
Yeah. Well, let me tell it, two people. Ina.
Skittles, man.
Oh, that's another story. But Ina, we met at, we had applied for a cultural affairs grant. It was the first grant I ever wrote, and I hated it. This is before computers, right? You had to make mimeograph copies of like 10 copies of everything. And we both were there. We turned in the grant and we didn't even want to hear from these people ever again in life. And then Ida becomes a storyteller.
I didn't know it was a job. But there you go. Yeah, we were sitting there at the last minute filling out those forms. I mean, to the second we were trying to get those things in.
And neither of us got nary nothing.
Nothing.
And Yvonne, hi Yvonne. Yvonne, I met Yvonne at my first storytelling conference in Seattle. And I told a story at a swap that one evening. That was in 1993. 2 years later, she hired me to come to Eugene with Donald Davis and perform at the storytelling festival there. Hey, fun. Woohoo! I'm a very happy camper, y'all. I'm a very happy camper.
We're happy
Hey,
to
Rick.
see your presence.
Alicia, did you have something to share? Your hands up?
Oh, I'm sorry. I already asked my question. I forgot to take my hand down.
I didn't even notice a little hair.
Just checking.
Sarah's talking. Sarah.
Just checking.
Yes, sir.
Or needs to unmute.
I thought you were saying something, Sarah. I saw you.
Oh, I was trying to talk to Alicia, forgetting that my dog was barking, so I had muted myself. So Jax took care of it. Thank you. Michael, this has been just delightful. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you all. I appreciate this to the nth degree. Great to see all of y'all.
Yeah, and we'll see you when we can see you.
Sounds like a plan.
Absolutely. Been great. Thank you, folks. Wonderful.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so
Love
much.
you, Michael. Bye.
Adios.
That's
Thanks
the
for
end.
coming,
That's pushing the
everybody. Thank
button.
you so much.
What a wonderful gathering.
Hey,